maybe because we only have one real source of light in nature, which is the sun. You just have the sun and everything else reflects the sun. You know how it is. Sometimes you just go into a room and the sun comes in. It's just beautiful the way it is. As soon as the lights are on, whether it's just ceiling lights, of course they're bad. But even if it's like artificial film lights, it's very easy to mess things up.
What you're touching on is a really fundamental truth, and I really feel the same way about it. So for one, going back to what I said earlier, yes, it's really hard to make it look natural if you use all these hard light sources. And it comes back down to what I was saying earlier, is we were using this kind of lighting techniques because we needed exposure. And this kind of stayed with us. And that's the reason it always looked artificial. Because, yeah, of course, you have 3 light sources hitting a face. That's just not going to look anyway near to what nature does. And then when we take the different approach, and if we really dive back to the basics of what this actually means, what is natural light? I mean, let's start out in the brightest place humans know. And it's also the darkest place humans know, right? It's space. It's pitch black, but there's nothing in the way of light, but we can't see it. And when a cosmonaut puts his hands out into the light, my God, it is really bright. So that's where the light comes from. And then those few rays from the sun hit our wonderful planet we're living on, and all of a sudden magic happens. And what actually happens? Some of the light penetrates through all the layers that we have around Earth, and it hits us direct. That's what we call direct sunlight. But that's not going to create anything near to natural looking light. Like that would be like, I'll just turn on one light in a studio. But where actually the magic happens is because that sunlight bounces off the floor, bounces off the walls, and suddenly creates all this atmosphere. I mean, it's like, just think about you're shooting in a location, beautiful sunlight coming in. You would never think about setting up fill light. That only comes because our relationships aren't correct between our key light, because it's too weak, or, we have fall off. We don't have that with the sun. We have the same brightness here as, I don't know, different city in Europe where the sun's up right now. We need to get the light source far enough away so we don't have the problem of having different kinds of exposures without going into physics. At the same time, we need to have this beautiful relationship, how light bounces and flows. And that's the reason I always say it's like aerodynamics with cars. When cars started, it was like nobody cared about aerodynamics. They were fighting tires, motors, everything. And at some point they said, well, radical idea. Let's go faster and use less energy. Well, how does that work? Well, you don't put anything in the way of the wind. You build cars with aerodynamics. And the idea of the reflectors is very similar. Let's put nothing in the way of the light.